The movie opens in a room where we see some boys and a few men. One of the men is using an electric clipper to cut the boy's hair. One of the boys has a tattoo of 3 dots on his foot. Later, we see a man picking up a document of Nawal Marwan from a storage space. He takes a sealed envelope from inside and returns to the office where a man and woman are waiting. The envelope contains Nawal's will. The lawyer, John Lebel, tells the children that their mother's will has something that he didn't want her to do, but he couldn't refuse her. Nawal wanted her twins to share her assets, money, and furniture. She also wanted to be buried naked, without any coffin, prayers, tombstone, or epitaph. This doesn't sit well with her children. John continues reading the will and says that Jean, the daughter, needs to find her father and give him the letter that Nawal left for him, and Simon, the son, also gets an envelope containing a letter for their brother. There are still more instructions in the will that Jean Lebel continues to read. The lawyer explained that the family could only bury their mother according to her wishes if they followed the instructions in the letters. This meant that they had to find the recipients of the letters and give them to them before they could traditionally bury their mother. The family was confused and angry, but the lawyer told them that he couldn't change the instructions because they were in the mother's will. He gave them some documents and told them to think about everything before making any decisions. Outside, Simon promises Jean that he will talk to Lebel to find a way to give their mother a proper burial. Simon will take care of Jean, who feels guilty for not being there when their mother had an accident, even though she denies it when Simon asks. One day, Jean is introduced to the class as the professor's assistant and takes over the lecture. After class, the professor tells Jean that she has the potential to become a real mathematician because her instincts are always right. He advises her to find out the truth about her family's history, or her spirit will never be at peace. Jean tells him about her father who died in the war, but the professor encourages her to start with something she knows and gives her the contact of a trustworthy old friend, Saeed Haider, who teaches at the university in Daresh. Back at home, Jean finds a picture of her mother with an Arabic inscription written on it and remembers a time when she saw her mother staring into space while Jean was swimming in the pool. Simon finds their mother in a hospital room, and the doctor asks Jean if Nawal, their mother, suffers from migraines or memory loss. Now, Simon, Jean, and Nawal are in the hospital room together. We follow Nawal's story as she travels back in time to a rocky terrain where she meets a man named Wahab. They run together and encounter Nawal's brother, Nicholas, who insults Wahab by telling him to go back to his country. As they try to escape, Nicholas points a gun at Wahab and kills him. As he is about to kill Nawal, he is stopped by their other brother. Suddenly, an older woman yells at them and brings Nawal to her home. However, the older woman, Nawal's grandmother, is angry when she finds out that Nawal is pregnant and sends her away to the city with her uncle. Nawal gives birth to a baby boy who is given a tattoo on his foot before being taken to an orphanage. Nawal promises to find him one day. Present day, Jean arrives at a Daresh and she goes to the university to find a person named Syed, but Saeed can't help her. So, Jean goes to the university's office and asks about her mother to the receptionist. The receptionist tells her that she can't help, as she wasn't even born when Jean's mother was at the university. But the receptionist directs Jean to someone who can identify the location of her mother as Kafar Rayat, a prison in the south. Jean's mother, Nawal, worked in the campus newspaper and was fighting for the rights of Muslims. One day, while working with her fellow journalists, some nationalists closed the university campus. Nawal and her family were worried about clashes and violence, so they decided to move to the mountains until the situation calmed down. However, Nawal was determined to find her son, who was taken away from her when he was born. She visited her old house in the destroyed village and looked for a clue about her son. Then she even took a bus to search for him, but the bus was attacked by some people who murdered all the passengers except for Nawal. We find Jean on a bus traveling south, passing by an old prison where her mother grew up. She calls her brother Simon, expressing her longing for his presence. When she meets a group of women, initially they seem friendly, but their attitude changes when they learn she's looking for Nawal. They speak in a language Jean doesn't understand, criticizing her mother and refusing to help. They make it clear she's not welcome and should leave. Meanwhile, Nawal, in a war-torn city. After an explosion leaves her injured, she joins a militia and is tasked with assassinating a leader. She infiltrates his household as a French teacher for his son. Things seem to be going smoothly until she receives the order to kill him. She carries out the mission and kills the leader, but is arrested and tortured, enduring years of hardship in prison. Back in the present, Jean visits the now empty prison where her mother was held. She meets a former guard who remembers Nawal as the singing prisoner who resisted their attempts to break her. He reveals that Nawal eventually stopped singing after enduring horrific abuse from a torture specialist. Jean learns that her mother gave birth in prison and sets out to find her lost sibling. Overwhelmed with emotion, Jean calls Simon, sharing everything she's discovered and pleading for his support in their quest. We witness a harrowing scene as Noah is handcuffed and hooded, then led to a cell where she hears another woman's screams. Nawal, in a neighboring cell, starts singing to drown out the cries. The intensity of the screams matches the pitch of Nawal's song. Meanwhile, Simon meets with a lawyer, Jean Lebel, seeking answers about his missing brother. Lebel advises him to delve into their mother Nawal's past to uncover the truth. Back in prison, Nawal herself is subjected to the same treatment, but she defiantly sings through the ordeal. Later, she is raped and left alone, singing despite the agony. As she realizes she's pregnant, she desperately tries to induce a miscarriage, but ends up restrained in her cell. When Nawal goes into labor, she's taken to a delivery room where a nurse, Miss Micah, helps her deliver twins. The nurse takes the twin babies out of prison, and later Nawal is released from prison. In Daresh, Simon and Lebel meet with another lawyer, Madad, to aid in their search. Together with Jean, they track down Miss Micah, now a patient in a hospital. She tearfully confirms their relationship to Nawal and reveals that she handed over the twins to their mother upon her release. This shocks Jean and Simon, who had believed their missing brother was born in prison, unaware that they were the ones born there. In a tense moment amidst the rubble of war, 4 children hurry, trying to evade danger. Their escape is interrupted when one of them is shot by none other than Nawal's son, recognizable by distinct marks on his foot. Madad shares a lead with the twins, informing them that their brother Nihad was likely at an orphanage in Kfar Kaut before it was destroyed in the conflict. Unfortunately, finding records beyond that point seems futile. Madad suggests seeking information from a warlord named Walet Chamsadine in Daressa. Simon and Lebel embark on this journey, meeting the warlord who initially denies knowledge of Nihad or Nawal. Meanwhile, Nawal, now released from prison, accepts an offer to leave the country with her children for America. Simon, in pursuit of answers, is blindfolded and taken to meet someone regarding his inquiries. To his surprise, it's the real warlord, Walet Chamsadine, who reveals Nihad's fate. Nihad, a skilled soldier, eventually sought out his mother, but was captured by a man named Abu Tarek after killing several opponents. Next, we see Jean discovers Simon in shock, who reveals the unsettling truth: their brother is also their father. In the following scene, Jean returns to the pool where she and Nawal used to swim together. As they swim, Nawal notices something: a tattoo of 3 dots on the back of someone's foot. She gets out of the pool to take a closer look, only to realize that the person is the man who had assaulted her in prison. Though visibly aged, Nawal is stunned, while the man, oblivious to her recognition, offers assistance. Nawal silently walks past him, deeply affected. Later, they receive information from the warlord that Nihad might be living in Canada under Nahad Harmani. Jan and Simon track down Nahad and deliver letters to him. Reading them, Nahad is overwhelmed with regret for his actions. In Lebel's office, they receive another letter from their mother, deeply emotional, and bringing them both to tears. Eventually, Nahad stands before a new gravestone bearing Nawal's name, reflecting on the impact of his past choices.